and healing begins. I am Dr. Lakita, and I am joined with my cousins Deontreza and Shanita. Together, we dive deep into the moments, memories, and mindsets shaped in the absence of love, and how we are finding our way back to it. This is not just a podcast. This is a Cousins production, a raw, real, and reflective journey where family, faith, pain, and progress meet. Whether you are navigating trauma, rebuilding trust, or redefining what love looks like in your life, we see you, and we are walking this journey with you. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let us talk about what happens outside of love. Because healing starts with the conversation. Hosted by Dr. Laquita Parks, Deontreza Blake, and Shanita Dawson Ugwoki, a Cousins podcast production.
Well, welcome to season 2 of What Happens Outside of Love. I am joined here with one of my cousins. We are one cousin short today, but life has been lifing for us. Hey, cousin.
Good day, and how are you?
I am fine. So today we are talking about I don't want to say a heavy subject, but it is a heavy subject. So before we get into all that, let's talk about what's been going on while we've been out of season. Okay. So we have had, it's been a lot going on. We ended up having 2 very successful What's Happening Outside of Love when chaos and confusion disrupts our lives. We had a virtual event, and then we had a live event. So thank you guys for tuning in to the virtual. And for those of you who came out and shared in the seminar or whatever you want to call it with us on March 7th, it was amazing. We had a lot of great conversation, and we accomplished what we set out to accomplish, right?
We did.
We set out what we wanted to accomplish. What we wanted to do was we wanted to have conversations. What happens outside of love when chaos and confusion disrupts our lives? And there's so much going on. And cousin, since we've been off, there's been a lot going on in the world, including we at war, right?
I did hear that.
Yeah. But God is good. God is still good. God is still faithful. And that's what we're leaning on. And that's what we're dependent on. So as we come back into it, a lot is going on in the world. A lot is going on in our lives. We are missing Shanita, but Shanita has a lot going on. So hopefully she will be able to join us for this season. So today we are talking about father absence and its silent impact. And so let me preface this by saying we're not bashing fathers. We're not bashing our fathers. We're not bashing any fathers. We're just having raw, and that's what we did. We bring it back this season like we did last season, real conversations of our lived experiences. That's what we're doing. We're not going to change from that. And you know what, cousin, you know what I did? I picked up the phone and I called my dad before the show. And I told him, I said, hey, I just want you to know that we are talking about fathers and the silent impact today. So he asked for the link. So he may be listening in. He said, he was out. If he got back home in time enough, he would listen in. But, always catch the replay. So, a part of me felt like, okay, what should I say? Is like, should I censor myself? Or should I just, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And I think he would appreciate the it is what it is part. What you think, cousin?
Yeah, I think nothing hits like, what I'm saying? We want, whether we want the truth, ready to face it or not, it is what it is. And the reality of it, as we contemplate it and as we meditate on it, I think all in all, we really want to know what the truth really is. So, yes, I mean, I think he should. I think he would be the welcoming type, even if he initially may not be in agreement. Eventually, he's like, okay, And that's all we want, that you to consider our feelings and don't dismiss them or don't act as though they're not there. And I think as we do that for one another, and that's in any relationship, between our fathers, our children, let us not be dismissive or
Right.
excluding the way one another feel. I think we come from backgrounds. I don't want to hear all that. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me.
Right.
We're so dismissive and like not. We don't take regard for one another.
The get over it, just get over it mentality. That's
Yeah,
the just get over it mentality. I have some friends who have great relationships with their fathers. And I have a good relationship with my father now. He didn't I didn't grow up with him in the household, but I knew who he was. And we have a good relationship now. I've actually learned a lot from him. And sometimes you kind of wonder, well, why do I do this? So where did I get that from? And you don't really have that person who you may have gotten those characteristics from in the household, so you can't really tell. So I know a lot of my my desire to be out in the community and helping people to do things, I know I got that from my dad. And so for you guys who don't know, if you guys are just tuning in, Dion and I are cousins. We are real cousins. So there's usually three of us. Shanita is not able to be here today, but Shanita is the cousin on my mama's side, and Dion is the cousin on my daddy's side. So, so we are real blood cousins. So Dion and I share, we're cousins, and so our dads are first cousins. So she know all about what I'm talking about. We're from we got the same bloodline through and through. But before we dive into this conversation, I wanted to share this with you, with everybody listening. And it's from, you can take it however you want to take it. I'm just going to say that. And some people listening may understand, some people may get it, some people may not. It depends on your experience. We're only here sharing our own experiences. And in this big old world, there's somebody else who has shared these experiences too. So here goes. Some of us didn't grow up asking for much. We just wanted to know, where's dad? Not always out loud, but in our hearts. We ask it in silence. We ask it through our behavior. We ask it in a way we love, and sometimes in a way we struggle to love. Because when a father is absent, it doesn't just leave an empty chair at the table. It can leave questions in a child's spirit. And Dion, you and I both can relate to that. Questions like, was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? Why wasn't I worth daddy being here? And the truth is, many of us didn't get answers. So we grew up and we carried those questions into adulthood, into relationships, into decisions, into how we see ourselves. And for some, that absence wasn't physical. He was there, but not really there. No words of affirmation, no emotional connection, no presence that made you feel seen. And that kind of absence can be just as loud. But tonight, we're not here to bash fathers. We're not here to point fingers. We're here to talk about what's real, the lived experience, the silent impact, the parts of the story people don't always talk about. Because healing doesn't begin with pretending. Healing begins when we finally say, this affected me. And if that's you tonight, I want you to hear me clearly. What you experienced was not your fault. And just because something was missing in your life does not mean something is missing in you. This is what happens outside of love. And so tonight, we are diving in to a real conversation about what has transpired and what has impacted us when daddy wasn't there. So we're talking about the impact of an absent father. So what say you, cousin?
I like the illustrations within that. Was that a poem or?
It was just some thoughts, just some thoughts that I put down, not a poem. I could have wrote a poem though. I didn't think to
Well,
write
a statement, right? But
just
but I think it is profound. I think it is very inclusive of some of the sentiments that we all feel when we grow up wondering. And I think that's just it. Those are the mechanisms, those are the things that are taking place when we're not being shown love and affection as girls, baby girls, growing women, however you want to classify or characterize us. I think when we're not giving those, when we're not trained in that affection, in that nurturing, in that love, we're operating in an outside of love. I mean, I've heard some things today, um, and it made me go, wow. Like, some of us as women have the capacity to sabotage relationships.
Mm.
When we get a man that likes or really wants to love us, and we're not necessarily used to being loved, and not love us in the way, because let's face it, if we grow up in a household where love, and I'm talking about the God kind of love,
Mm-hmm.
is not being shown or modeled for us, then we go out into the world and we kind of come up, unfortunately, with our own definitions of what love is.
Mm.
And as young teenage girls who are unlearned and who are just ignorant to the ways of love because we haven't been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And ignorant is, by definition, unaware of facts. So we're
Right.
unaware, and so when I say it is no, not throwing any shade, I'm not judging, I'm just saying that we don't know love on God's terms. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we're proceeding into a world, like my favorite song, one of them says, I want to know
I
what
know
love
what
is.
love is.
And I want,
You
and
to
I want you
show
to show
me.
me.
That's right.
But who is the you?
That's a good question. Who is the you? Exactly.
Who who am I wanting to show me love?
Right.
And so I think that leads us down this path, a straight path, of looking for love in all the wrong places, right? Because we really want to know what love is.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want you to show us. But the
Mm-hmm.
you should be God first. And of course, our natural fathers
Right.
next to God, right?
Right.
But when that order is not indicative or not found present in our lives, we still want to know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nothing is going to ever change us wanting to know, because the truth be told, we were designed, we were made for love.
That's right. That's right. You know, I I absolutely love that. And that, that has become one of my favorite songs. Jennifer, my I am buddy is here. So glad to be here. Thank you, Jennifer. Good
Amen.
to have you here. And then Brandon, you remember Brandon? Brandon is here. Brandon Dorrington. Hey, friend. Hey, friends. Thank you
I
guys for
remember
being here.
Brandon. Definitely great to see you all.
Thank you for being here. I love that song, and we play it in the pool. I go to the pool with my pool friends, and that song came on, and every single time I'm like, that's our song. And who's the it? And ultimately that it should be God. And we were made for love.
We
God
really were.
God so loved the world that he gave. So we were born into that. So when we were thinking about the topic about fathers, I wasn't hesitant, but I was hesitant because I shared with you a situation that bothered me, and I remember our conversation, and I was talking to you about it, and you was like, "That's your fault," and and I was like, "Okay," but so as I was thinking about this topic. One of the things that I will say that I really like about my dad that has really helped me grow is he is not the type of person that you can say something to and he will be like, oh, no, like he'll get on the defensive. That's not him at all. He owns his stuff. That's the one thing I like about him. He owns his stuff. So you can talk to him about anything and he owns his stuff. And so at one point I remember, my dad is he's very, very active in his community. And was what am I trying to say? He didn't win something, but they named a recreation center after him. And every time we're on a call, if we were on this call today, he would say something like, she didn't get this from me. Whatever this is, she didn't get this from me. and he won't take credit for any of whatever accomplishments he feels that I've gained. But one of the things that we've talked about, I can talk to him and I can say, hey, you know, you've done a lot in the community, and sometimes I feel some kind of way because you did a lot in the community, but you were not there. You were not there to do that same lot. I didn't benefit from that. And he said, I know. And in listening to him, we had a real heart-to-heart conversation not too long ago. And the understanding is, at what point, you know, I can't say you for the rest of my life. I'm 56 years old. So the point that I'm trying to make is the impact of dad not being there. It goes a long way. It goes far into adulthood. And so a lot of people don't understand that. And you brought that up earlier when you said it's the, you know, a lot of people have the just get over it mentality. Well, it's hard to just get over it when you haven't processed it. If you never talk about it, if you never ask the questions, because there could be a whole lot of reasons. And I always say, when you're a child, you don't have the mental capacity to understand what is going on in adult relationships. So
also, it's not to dismiss.
right.
You know, I'm in an R&B mindset, maybe because of the fatigue. I don't know, but I'm thinking Keith Sweat right now. And there's a right and a way, or right and
the wrong way to love somebody.
What did he say?
Yeah, there's a right and a wrong way. There's a good and a bad way. Yeah,
but okay. So this is a romantic song, right?
Right.
And here's what I'm trying to get at. It takes for us to grow up, and in our wondering and in our contemplations and in our seekings, we're growing up and we're made for love. I mean, point blank, I don't care who you are. 1 John 4:8 says that God is love. So Genesis 1:26 says that we were made in his image. So he said, let us make them in our image. So if the image is bearing love, love is what it is. And love is what it's got to be.
You know, I just got a message from my dad that says, I am listening.
Well, hi, cousin.
Hey,
Yeah.
Hey, Dad.
But
Hello,
no,
Dad.
we were made for it. Right? So if I grow up, and so what's happening, there's this innate desire for us as women to be loved. Right. Ephesians chapter 5 says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, right?
That's some ultimate, that means ultimate love. That's some ultimate love. That ain't no half-stepping love.
So, I mean, we were made, I'm talking about women right now. Right. We were made for love, because he did not command the woman to love the man. Mm-hmm. He did tell her to submit to him, which we have a problem doing. And I'm not excusing us by any stretch of the imagination right now. But what I am saying is, if we were made for love, then we're going to innately seek it to the day we die. We're going to innately crave that until the day that we're dying. So it doesn't matter. And so the fact that we didn't get it and then someone want to come along and say, get over it, I can't get over it.
Yeah. And that's just not even responsible to say, get over it, just get over it without even going through and processing. You have to process it. And you know what? And father absence is not always physical, because there are a lot of people who had dad in the home with them and dad wasn't there. I've had conversations with people who was like, you know, my life would have been XYZ if my dad would have been there. But then I've also had conversations with people. I've published books with people whose dad was there and life was hell. So you can't even say what it would be, because an absence can be physical. It could be emotional. It can be silence. It can be disconnection. And we talk about this all the time, cousin. We say our people, and that's anybody, they gave us what they had. And we've given our children what we had, and our children will give their children what they had. The understanding is that every generation gets stronger and stronger, but you know, that's not always the case. What did you say your grandmama used to say? Every generation gets what?
Weaker and wiser.
Weaker and wiser.
Mhm.
Weaker and wiser. They smart, but they weak. You know, I have a 4-year-old granddaughter, and she never ceases to amaze me. You know, she's saying some stuff, and I'm like, girl, you 4, 2 4-year-olds, and they got too much sense. So, but every generation weaker and wiser. So as we go through, and we know we're talking about women right now, but there is also an impact of fathers not being in the home that impacts men. And so those men turn into the people that we get in relationships with, and that we marry, and that we work with, and that you know, that's a whole scope of conversation.
I think, I mean, it's realizing at a certain point, right? There's these scriptures coming to mind, like that we've been transferred out of the darkness into his marvelous light. So if two people are walking together and they're walking in darkness, and it's like, I don't know what love is and you don't know what love is, but hey, we both want to find out.
Mhm.
And I think if that's the attitude, it's okay. And even if when we go to our parents and we let them know and they apologize, and I'm sorry, I couldn't show you better because I didn't know any better.
Right.
And so that is to be understood. But I think the goal is for everyone to know that we were intended to be loved.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the intention of God. That's the intention of the creation. That we were intended. We were made for love. Hold up, excuse me. We were made in love, by love, for love.
We
With
want to
love.
know love, love, and love on top of love. Absolutely, absolutely. That's why really, when you think about it, cousin, the things that happens outside of love, it's foreign. It doesn't feel right. It does not feel right because it's not supposed to be happening outside of love. And sometimes we force it. We try to force it, but it's not going to work because it's not supposed to be happening outside of love. And that's the thing. Go ahead. Look like you. I can tell. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, it that is exactly. You were talking about we're at war and all that. I wanted to cut you off when you first started and be like, yeah, all the stuff, all this is happening outside of love.
It's all war.
Everything that happens. I read in my devotion some mornings ago, because sometimes I catch up if I miss a day. I have to do makeup days on my devotion, so I can't say which day it was. But he was talking about how God made Adam and Eve in the garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, think about a garden. A garden is cultivated, is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just plentiful, is aesthetically pleasing. He was like, but when they were thrown out of the garden, they were placed into the wilderness. And he was like, wilderness people are wild.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my. All of this is taking place outside of love, outside this garden, right? And there's this wildness. Like when we hear things that happen outside of love, I've often said to myself, that's wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, but everything that is happening and taking place outside of this cultivation in this garden is wow. It's not of commonplace, right? It's not of the reasonable expectation of how two people should behave. So if I tell you about a man I'm dating or a boyfriend or something, I'm like, he's this and he's that, and it's like, wow, that's kind of wow that this happened, or we say that's insane, that's crazy. All of it is some variation of wow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's all happening outside of love because we have failed to realize that in love is where we belong. And in love ain't the woman meeting the man talking about, baby, I'm in love with you.
Well, that's fleeting because I'm in love with you today because, and I've said it before, I say it again, it's tied to how I feel. So if I feel good, if you make me feel good today, then I'm in love. The minute you don't make me feel good anymore, then I've fallen out of love with you. I don't know what that falling in and falling out of love is, but that's the problem. I don't, it's tied to how I feel. So I'm responsible for my own happiness. But if you don't make me happy, then I don't feel good. I'm not feeling you. And so it's a roller coaster. It's up and down all the time, because number one, we don't truly understand the definition of love. And so as we're talking about fathers and the impact, that's the love part that's missing. And so what do when something's missing? You go out and you try to find it and try to make up for it. So you got a square peg in a circle hole, and it ain't fitting. There's, if the square might be, big enough, and you get the circle in there, but there's too much room, so it's not fitting the way it should fit. So, we're trying to make up from the absence that's felt, and it goes on. And a lot of times, cousin, and you tell me what you think about this, a lot of times conversations are needed. I remember it's been some years ago. I remember my dad was in town, and so guys, my dad knows that I'm talking about him. So, I'm not doing anything that he doesn't know about. But he came to town, and for some reason, I was always, my daddy. That was always me. Even though I didn't grow up with him, he wasn't there. I was daddy. But I always knew where he was. He was military man, so I always knew where he was and knew how to contact him and all those things. He would send me pictures and all this. Well, all of a sudden, I wasn't feeling him. And so when he came to town, I was like, I'm not going around. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. So my stepmom was like, we had a family gathering, as we do when he comes to town. My stepmom was like, you should talk to him. And she was like, what are you going to do? You're going to write him a letter when he goes back home, and then, wait to see him, when he comes back to town, talk to him now. He's here. You're here. And when I tell you, I did. And I'll never forget the conversation, because he didn't do it's this person's fault, or your mama did this, or I didn't do that, or I could. He did not do that. He completely validated how I felt. And now, did that erase it? It helped. It helped tremendously. And I remember that. And that doesn't happen all the time. And sometimes a conversation and validation is a lot. Sissy, cousin, you there with me? Sometimes the conversation is necessary. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you talk, because I know you've had a long day.
Oh no, I'm just listening. My eyes look like they waning, but I promise y'all I'm not sleepy. And I'm listening to you. But yeah, you see they look drunk. But I didn't drink.
You're not drunk. She has had a long day. Long day.
But I'm
I was very, that's the one thing that I remember, because it was never, he's never done how you cut you off and dismiss you. It's dismissive. He's never done that. And I have a lot of respect for him. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity, and it's an opportunity that a lot of people don't get. Does it fix everything? No, but you gotta take what you get.
So I think that being said, when I think about our family dynamic, there is a presence there, right? But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think as a whole, as a family, there's also an ignorance there, because there's a scripture in the Bible that says, holding to a form of godliness, but proving false to its power. So there is this devotion that we have in our families. And, like my dad has been going to church with me, but I'm like, where is the heart? Let's get down to the heart of the matter. Mm-hmm. And what I like to say is, like, when we could locate ourselves in our hearts, I'm thinking of this scripture, and it says, the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. But what does the godly person say? Or what does the father? And I think we all want to do better, but it's really a matter of boiling down to when we're going to sit at Jesus's feet and be taught how to do better, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, there's this dynamic, and I can only speak for my father. Like, I'm too old for that. And no, you're never too old for that, because there is a right and a wrong way to love somebody. Yes. He said it, but hey, I'm gonna second that emotion.
Hey, you take it.
And the objective is to learn and find, to discover the right way. Period. I mean, I can't say it any different. Like, and those are the kind of meetings I think families should have, right? Because here is the thing. Jesus said it himself when the man came up and he's talking to him, and he said, look, the greatest commandment is that you love the Lord God with your whole heart, your whole mind, and your whole soul. He said, but the second one is like unto it. You love your neighbor as yourself.
And a lot of people think, oh, that's my next door neighbor. That's the person that lives next door to me. No. Your neighbor can be your family. My cousin is my neighbor. My cousin is my neighbor. So, it's not, now I'm not saying don't love the people next door to you. Definitely. But it's just not just the people that's next door to you. You love your neighbor as yourself. You're not going to mistreat yourself. Well, some people do mistreat themselves.
But I think the conversations, and here is what I don't think. I say this, and I said this before. I don't think graduation should take place until we get rooted in those two commandments. You need to be at the kindergarten level until you can proceed.
Girl, you sound like in the meantime.
No, because that's going to take a whole lifetime for you to learn how to love God with your whole heart, your whole mind, and your whole soul, and for you to love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah. Because
here's what I do believe. Jesus was really giving us a cheat sheet. So when we get to judgment day, that's all he's going to ask.
Did you love your neighbor as yourself?
Did you love the Lord?
The least of these. The least of these.
Yes. Did you do that? He said you're going to know my disciples by the love that they bear, right? So I think we're missing the lessons in love, literally. So what's happening outside of love is that we ain't want to buckle down and learn how to be inside, period.
Yeah, and you know what? So cousin, what are some of the things that you see within yourself or within, people that you know? What are some of the things that you see, some of the habits that have formed as a result of dad not being there? What are some of the things that you think has transpired that I know a fear of abandonment is one.
Well, I think we're operating in it, right? So
trust issues.
Yeah, definitely that. Settling. How we settle. That's not God's best. We know it's not God's best for us, but we're going to settle for it because it's like it is something.
Something better than nothing.
Something that now what when we talk that one right there? Now come on, I think one mama them said that one, girl. Something better than nothing.
A piece of man is better. A piece of man is better. What was it? A piece of man is better than no man at all. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't know.
That is the greatest thing because settling is also a form to me of growing in hopelessness. Because you know that what you settle for ain't gonna get no better. It's probably prone to get worse.
And you prolong the agony. You just prolong the agony.
Yeah. So then I go and I'm like, okay, now I'm bitter. Everything is taking place because one thing is giving way to the next, right? So it's like all that you can imagine is starting because, I wasn't loved. But again, it's forgiveness is the order, right? Where our parents are concerned, but we hold the alt of unforgiveness. And so therefore we remain in that iniquity. Right. So we are perpetuating generations of lovelessness. So if I'm going for it and I'm like, my daddy, he didn't do this. So that's going to be the first thing. And then my children are going to say the same thing about me, right? Or
because if I'm the one saying my daddy didn't do this, if I'm not careful, this is exactly what I'm putting on the children. And that's what it just goes on and on and on, and it creates a vicious cycle. And there's no breaking it. As you go through, it's like you don't have to stay in there. I could choose to, and it's a choice. I can choose to go through the cycle, and it's a downward spiral cycle of my daddy didn't. At what point? Because you can't go back. there is nothing that anybody can do about what happened yesterday. You can't fix it. You can't change it. All you can do is move forward. And so you get to choose. And there are so many people who choose to wallow in what happened and who wasn't there, instead of going through and choosing something different. And you know what? Go ahead.
They're not knowing what to choose. So they want love, right? But they're not choosing love.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the greatest thing that we're facing. Everybody says they want love. Well, then choose it.
Yeah. That's
choose to
that's
walk
heavy.
in the precepts of it. So if you come to me like me and you were talking, and I say, well, cousin, that's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
So choosing love is to choose to understand and admit that, yeah, that was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can walk. Now I'm more prone to walk into forgiveness. Now I'm more prone to really release that person from the harm that they may have caused me. But if I own my part in it, and not only that, owning my part in it, if I understand that sin has made us all enemies of God. Mm-hmm. So sin has made me an enemy of God, just like it made you. So your enmity with God is gonna might look different from mine, but it's still enmity. I'm still separated from him, and you separated from him. If sin has separated us from him, so now the goal is to be joined to him. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going back to him and you going back to him, I'm gonna have to help you. Sometimes you're gonna have to help me. So translated, you're gonna have to excuse some of my foolishness, and I'm gonna have to excuse some of yours.
But as adults, that can happen. But what happens? I don't know anything about falling into sin when I was a child. You accept that, and as children, when there is an absent father, we're talking about fathers, but mothers can be absent too. But we're specifically talking about fathers today. But as I go through that as a child, I have no idea, and it comes back to, what did I do wrong? And if those questions are never answered, and sometimes we bury it and we don't ever ask the questions. So if those questions are never answered,
but we're not realizing it as a child.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But if you, as a child, you don't know, you don't have a choice, you don't have a clue, none of it. But as an adult, if you don't even ask the question, sometimes there are adults who bury and say, you know what, I don't want nothing to do with this. And they don't even ask the question. And so they keep it inside, and they keep that hurt. And it's just build up. And then it creates that downward spiral. And it's just a vicious cycle. So a question, it starts with a question, and sometimes there is not an answer, but you can still ask the question because it wasn't.
Right. So part of me, as I'm hearing you talk, I did ask questions though as a child to my dad, because we were really close, right? And so I asked questions because when I felt that the closeness was threatened and that separation was coming between us on a very severe and intense level. Mm-hmm. And I think it was at the point I realized that he had begun to use and abuse substances. I don't know where he was in the journey, but I know something was wrong, because it was driving a wedge between his and my relationship. Mm-hmm. So I went to him, I think I wrote him a letter, and I'm like, hey, I heard it through the grapevine. We come from families that the information is going to be circulated.
the information meal. How about that?
Yes. So we don't keep them kind of secrets in our family. So, we going to know. And I heard through the grapevine that was the case. And so I kind of approached it. I wrote him a letter. I said something, and I never forget. He hollered at me good fashion. I mean, I'm like a 9 or 10-year-old. And when I tell you crushed, but it made me never want to go to my dad again. Mm-hmm. Never. Mm-hmm. But it didn't answer my questions. He said, who told you? I can't even muster up. I used to could regurgitate it, but I've worked so hard to want to forgive it and dismiss it or put it away somewhere. But it's like, whoever said that, but you're not answering my question. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I'm really trying to let you know that I'm not feeling the love that I've been accustomed to getting from you. Mm-hmm. Something has taken you away from me. Mm-hmm. But if you won't talk to me, I can't figure that out. And so when I tell you I became perpetually sad, depressed, And at the same time, that altered my perspective of love and relationships for the rest of my life.
Mm, mm,
I know it did because I can remember prior to that, prior to whenever, and I think it took me a longer time to muster up the strength to even ask him what was going on. So even in the interim time, in me wondering, I'm a wedge is being drawn between me and my dad. It's like it's drifting. There's this drift taking place, but I'm a kid, so like you said earlier, we don't know, but
mm-hmm.
we know something is wrong.
And it's our fault, because especially when you don't get the answers, like you took that conversation that you didn't get the answers to, the outcome wasn't the way that you thought it was or how it should have been, and you took it inwardly.
Right,
And
we internalize it, right?
yeah.
But we're not getting help. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no real direction that precedes a healthy direction. Because
Mm-hmm.
I took matters into my own hand. I'm like, excuse my French, I wish you know what would. You know, like, first of all, no other man is gonna talk to me like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna dismiss me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do, I'm gonna give you a whole piece of my mind. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna know that that is not to be had. And so then it made me very reactive instead of being responsive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It put me on guard because now I don't trust nothing you telling me. It's
Trust
a
me.
lot of different
Yeah.
behaviors. You know, it violated my trust. I can't say that enough. You know what I'm saying? It impacted me in so many ways, probably that I'm not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, but here's what I know. Inside of love is where I belong.
Right.
So if I got to kick you to the car to find out how to get there, but if you come along and you walk in the side and you say, hey, I didn't come from that either, but I know that's where I want to go. I know that's the road, you know, like Dorothy when she was looking for home in the Wizard of Oz and they like follow the yellow brick road.
She took him
That's that
along.
road
That's the
that
road.
we are supposed to be following.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I know that, you know, I'm like, okay, I can shrug off all this other stuff to get
Mm-hmm.
there. Even
Mm-hmm.
forgiving you because really I'm forgiving you because I realize you just don't know no better. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm also gonna forgive you because I realize you don't want to know no better.
And now see, you just said a mouthful. It's one thing to be forgiven and you want forgiveness and you come and you say, okay, you know what, I messed up. Even if you didn't get what you were supposed to get, you still have a responsibility to learn. And that's the thing. We don't want to know. We talk about, okay, I want to know what love is, but I don't know what's on that other side where love is. I know what's over here on the chaos side. I know what's on the confusion side. And so I'm used to that. I'm used to dealing with this. I'm not used to the unfamiliar. So I'm afraid of it. You know, I'm used to failure. So this not gonna surprise me. It's
I'm
gonna
not
give me
used to
what I'm
success.
used to. I'm
Yeah.
not used to success. So what's going on over here, which is the very best thing for me, I'm scared to cross over that line because if I get hurt over here, then hey, you know what? I don't have no expectations over here. But if I get hurt over here, my expectations will ruin me. And that's the thing. Learning the process is like you go, it's over here, but somebody has to say, hey, it's the water's good. It's good. It's good for relaxing, it's good for drinking, it's good for bathing. It's good over here. And so I like that you said when we go through, and so both of us came from the same family, and we both have our daddy issues. At some point, you get to the point where you say, okay, you know what, enough already. I'm gonna forgive you, whether you ask for forgiveness. I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna act as if you want to be forgiven, even if you don't know what that means. At the same time, don't keep rubbing this sore. It's kind of like, okay, we've got to this point. We have the scab. The scab has come on and it's starting to harden. Your skin's starting to come back. You're starting to get your color back, and then you run over that same bruise, and then you open up the wound again. Stop that, fathers. If you are listening, quit reopening wounds. And you have to find out what that's like. Listen to the heart of what the people that love you say. And that's the thing. It's not that we don't love. If anything, we love harder. It's always interesting. Isn't it always interesting, Dion, that people love the people that are not there the most? They seem to love the people that are not there the most. That's who they crave the most. You got the good parent over here. And they want to, I'm going with my daddy. I'm going with my mama. And the mama's feeling like, but wait, I'm here. I've been here all this time. What about me?
I think the receiving, and that's for sons and daughters. I was gonna say for daughters especially.
Right.
But if like, I just think about my oldest son and how, I'm not gonna say what he said about his dad, but like, he don't give a day. He's like, I don't care how much wrong he does. That's my daddy. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter to me. And my son is almost 29. So it's like, for you to say, go and be like, you know what? I love you regardless. Now, if I had to select a group of kids that love their dad unconditionally, I don't even know how they love me. My kids love their dad. Like, hey, he gets kudos in their book. Like, and even if you sit and you could just, my family, we come from families that like to keep score. So my family gonna keep some score. Like, your daddy do this, they'll cut you off in a minute. Now you can tell them I do something, and they right there with it. Like, hey, I know that's y'all niece, that's your cousin, that's y'all this. But don't talk about that daddy. So I think fathers are to be honored. Let me say that. I think, we're in a generation now that when they are present, even if they're not loving us necessarily like you're saying they should be loving us, the fact that James Parks and you are aware yes of who he is,
his whole name.
Yeah, I mean that's a common name, so they don't know him. They don't know that
they know him.
But what I'm saying is, or Benjamin Gibson, it doesn't matter to me. But the fact that we know that such a person exists,
right?
Hey, you can write that off. That's it. We in love, and I think the fact that you knew that you could get in touch with him, even if he was absent, I call my daddy.
There was a lot of fantasizing as children, especially girls. There was a lot of fantasizing, and when you do a lot of fantasizing and you get older, and I went through a lot. I went through a lot, probably medically more so than the normal child, quote unquote normal child. So there was a lot of fantasizing for me, and as I grew older, the reality set in. And there's a song called Fairy Tales. So with Anita Baker, that's my favorite song. But when you wake up and you see that life is not the fairy tale that you hoped it would be, or that you desired, and it just had thorns in it. Well, as you go through the whole thing, for me, I could have carried that because I didn't feel that way all the time. But when that feeling came, and I have to say, and I say this all the time, and I've said this to you, if it wasn't for my stepmom encouraging me to have the conversation, and then my sister was like, I had the conversation. So what was so interesting to me was that he was just open. So how is it, he's Sergeant Parks, so how is it that you open to you're not getting the, I'm running to my daddy, I'm a daddy's girl. You're not getting that. You're getting the, this is what you did to my heart. And as you get that, as you go through, it's processing on both ends. And so for me, as I went through it, and we've had this conversation privately, as I went through it, it's like, okay, now what? I've told you how I felt. I've told you how what you said made me feel. I've told you how what you've done made me feel. So I've gotten all that out. And so now what? The whole thing is we operate at a different standpoint, but what you have to know is, and dads, if you're listening, what you have to know is don't reopen the wounds. And how do you not do that? Then you be, what's the four agreement, the four agreements, you heard that book, the four agreements. You be impeccable with your words. Your word is your bond. If you say you're gonna do something, do something. If you can't do it, make sure you don't do it. All the excuses, put it to rest. We're human beings, but that's how you don't reopen wounds. You and listen, even though you can't fix it, sometimes you said something that your dad, when you were telling him, you heard through the grapevine, and you were like, something is going on with our relation. Something's going on with you because it's affecting our relationship. And he yelled at you, and that shut you down. I was having a conversation with a good friend the other day, and I called, and has always been somebody I could talk to. And as I'm trying to, I was emotional. I had a meltdown, and I was trying to talk about it. And the response was, "Get it out, Edith." I was like, "What? Edith Bunker, get it out." And I completely shut down. And I said, "Don't ever do that to anybody else. Do not do that, because if somebody trusts you enough for them to open their heart and share their heart with you, don't shut them down. Don't do that." And so dads can do that. Moms can do that too. Just listen. Just listen. Because that person is trusting you with their feelings, with their heart. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. That might not be nobody else's story, but that's LaQuita's story.
All in all, and I wholeheartedly agree that parents should not be provoking their children by dismissing their feelings and doing all of the other sorts. I think often, and I think, if Jesus be at the center of it all, that if he came, he say, "I have come that you might have life," right? And abundant life.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Amplified version say, "to the full until it overflows." And what I really am ascertaining from that scripture in this moment is that God came to rectify all of those wrongs
Mm-hmm.
that we experience in our day-to-day relationships with one another. I think I'm thinking about Psalms right now when it says, "Even if your mother or your father forsake you, I'm gonna take you up."
Mm.
So if I get on this road to love, I can love you with the love that I wanted you to love me with.
Mm-hmm.
And I can excuse everything else, because even at this point in my life, I think what I'm most grateful for is life. That I made it to this day, right? And I've
Mm-hmm.
made it thus far. And really, in spite of all the wrong that my parents or anybody has did to me along the way, I'm here. Right. And I have breath, and therefore I can praise the Lord. But I can praise love. God is love, right? So I could praise love, and I could praise him for his right intention and his intentional design of me, of you, of everybody else. It's just, God really loves us. Oh, how he loves us.
Girl.
And regardless of what we've been through.
You took the words right out of my mouth. And you know what? Regardless, as to, so there's intent behind everything. So we know the positions we've learned the positions our dads may have been in when we came along, you know. And so we know that they loved us, that they love us, and we love them. So for, if you're listening, we're not bashing. We love our dads. We do. And we know that you can only give a person what you have, and you have to learn the rest, and you get to choose to learn the rest. I like the fact that you said that Ben was going to church with you. That's a start. For whatever the reason, if it's because I need to get the word, and I know God is God, and I need some Jesus in my life, or this is an opportunity for me to be close to my daughter, whatever. Because if he keeps going, he's going to get the Jesus in him. It's going to come. So that's a great thing. We have to be able to, we cannot honestly say how we feel and not hear the other end of it. You know how I remember when I used to be younger, and I can do that. I can do that sometimes now. Sometimes I can get so mad, I say what I got to say, and I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to hear nothing else. I'm saying what I got to say. I'm done. But listening also to the other side means growth. So you have to grow. And with that being said, I'm going to share this. My dad just sent this to me. He said, you can't say that you are a man if you can't own up to your responsibilities. Actions have consequences. You can run, but you can't hide. There are no excuses for selfish acts. You have always made it easy for me to feel your pain despite my absence. Your accomplishments and your hardships attest to you becoming an amazing person, despite all of my shortcomings as a man and a father. This conversation is healing. Just trying to be a better dad, person, husband, grandpa, great grandpa, and a human being. Love you, Dr. Parks. My dad just sent that. And you know what? We have to have the hard conversations. And that's the one thing. And I love you too, Dad. That's the thing that I love about him. It's not a perfect relationship, but if you're looking for perfection in this one right here, you have missed the boat, because this is not a perfect being. I am a flawed individual. And you know, I'm the first to say it. And where do I go every week, Dion? To therapy. I am a proponent of therapy. I believe in it. I'm not going to tell somebody to do something that I wouldn't do every week. And it has been tremendously helpful for me. So these conversations are necessary. So when, you know, from a father's, you know, I'm not a father's, but I can talk about my perspective from being the daughter and what that felt like, and also building a relationship as an adult. You know, it's different when you're building a relationship with your dad as an adult. And the one thing that I know, and Dion, you know that too, that he supports me in whatever it is I do. And that I appreciate. I really do.
I do. I think that's, you know, it's I like the message that he's just translated. Like, I'm here and I'm engaged in corrective action. Yeah.
You know, and the truth of the matter too, Dion, is that some fathers were never taught how to love. We just talked about that. They were never taught. Some of them were carrying trauma. You know, they came in through trauma and still struggle emotionally. So, you know, somebody said you can't get blood out of a turnip. Well, you can't get blood out of a watermelon either, even though the juice come out red. Is that's the case? Is that not the case?
Yes,
It's the case. It's the case.
Yeah, I just love it. I love that we can have these conversations, cousins, and that we can get it all out in the open in our sentiments, how we make each other feel, and why we're not where we probably desire to be in relation with one another, or significant others, or wherever, in familiar relationships, whatever relationships, while we are not there. You know, like, how do we get there? How do we get outside? You know, we're traveling in this wilderness journey, and how do we get back to this garden of love, you know, that we're all looking and seeking, and knowing that we were made for? We know that God has designed us for that place. That's why the young girl, the fairy tales that you were having when you were growing up, that's where all that was coming from. I think there's a scripture in Ecclesiastes 3:11, and it says that he placed eternity in their heart. But the only way nobody wants to be in eternity outside of love. Who want to say, I want to live forever in hell?
Girl, where your very best day is actually your very worst day.
Yeah, nobody says that. So if we're wanting to live forever, the place we're designed to be is inside of love. That's where forever resides. And the way that we get there is, first of all, believing that that place exists, even though it's not a place that we are used to, that we've been familiar with. Let's explore this place.
And let's see what it feels like. Let's see what it feels like, because I know it's got to feel better than this. So,
amen.
It's got to feel better than this. You know what? This has been a great conversation, and maybe one day we should invite our dads to come on the show and be guests on the show. We can we can see if that'll work out. I
Yeah,
think
let's see if they're
it's
going to be
good.
willing to do that.
Yeah, let's see if they'll be willing to do that. I think that would be a great conversation. We can have our dads on, and they can, and because everybody has a side, and we can hear their perspectives. But you know what? The one thing that we do know is that the conversation has to continue. What happens outside of love has to continue. So because the conversation is not a one and done conversation, it has to continue because everything that happens outside of love is painful, is heavy, it's anger, all of those negative things you can think of is happening outside of love.
And
but
it's just plain wrong.
it's just plain wrong. It's just plain wrong. So we want to know what love feels like. So we operate inside of love, and that's our goal. So this is our kickoff to season 2. We're coming back with some more conversations, real, and we only talk about our lived experiences. We can't share experiences that we've never had. So we're real. These are real conversations. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what it is. It is what it is. We can't change it. But what we do know is that we get to choose. We get to choose, and you get to choose too. So my cousin and I are choosing to be inside of love. And that, we go through whatever we need to go through. But sometimes, cousin, I don't know about you, but sometimes, man, I'm clawing at the door to make sure I'm staying inside of love. Because sometimes something grabbed me by the ankle and try to pull me outside of love. But it's like fighting. You fighting to stay inside of love, because that's where the divine truly is. That's where you get to breathe. All of these problems, whatever the war is, you got peace, because I got peace. I got peace no matter what's going on in the world. I am at peace right now, and I'm grateful for that. So final thoughts, cousin?
When you were just talking about fighting, I thought about what Paul said. He said, I fought the good fight. That's the good fight. The good fight is to remain. Jesus said, I think in John chapter 15, unless you abide in me, you could do nothing, right? I think I'm paraphrasing on some end, but if we're not abiding in love, because Jesus is love, like God is. So if we're not abiding in love, then where are we abiding? That's right. And so outside, it's the pain that you were talking about, the heartache, is everything that is wrong. Mm-hmm. And we know it's wrong. And it's like you clawing in the midst of, this ain't right. Right? And you know it ain't right. So you're going to get over here to what's right. Where you going?
Right. It don't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. You're driving down the road continuously, knowing it ain't right, don't feel right, don't look right. You just know.
And you're driving you driving and you see the cars are coming and they blowing at you. Why are these cars blowing at me? What am I doing wrong? You driving on the wrong side of the road.
Going the wrong way.
Wrong way. And you just passed the sign, do not enter. Wrong way. So this has been an amazing conversation. Cousin, I'm so glad to have you back for season 2. We are going to continue to have the conversation. What's happening outside of love? What happens outside of love? So listen, I'm Dr. Laquita. This is Dion, my cousin, and hopefully we'll have Shanita back when we have our next episode. But listen, we want to know what love is. That's our song. I want to know what love is. I want you to show me.
We're going to have to phrase the next event.
Exactly.
What love is?
Do you know what love is? There you go. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
If you want to know, I think it should be, do you want to know?
Do you want? I like
most of us probably think we know. So
I like
what do you want to know? Then you probably, girl, I know.
I know. Listen, we want to hear it. We want to hear from you. So listen, send us an email, send us a message. You can catch us on Facebook. You can message us through YouTube. You can catch us on YouTube. If you have questions about the show, or if you have some suggestions for topics, send us a message. We are going to have some guests this season. And we're going to talk to some guests that's going to come on, and hopefully we can get some of our family to come on and talk about what happens outside of love, because we want to know. We want to know their thoughts. It's just not a me and Dion kind of thing and Shanita. We truly want to know, and we want you to know. So we're all growing this year. All right. So listen, I am Dr. Laquita Parks. I am the co-host of What Happens Outside of Love. I absolutely love my cousins, Shanita and Dion. And listen, this is a Cousins podcast production. And Dion, it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure, girl. Better than a triple deck of peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, isn't that sweet and lovely? Love you too. Love you guys too. Be loved, because God loves us, guys. He really do, and He wants all of us inside of love.
Inside of love. Until next time, be blessed.
Bye.
Laquita Parks, CEO and founder of PayPro-V Publishing. She's passionate about helping individuals take their story from a thought to a realization. PayPro-V stands for pain, progress, victory. The subject Laquita is all too familiar with. A survivor of childhood medical trauma, she experienced a series of events that have forced her to battle with the painful effects that will last throughout her lifetime. Despite these challenges, Laquita is an overcomer, and she believes you are an overcomer too. As publisher and contributing author, she told her inspirational story in the international and domestic best-selling anthology, She Said Yes to Herself, Unapologetically Empower Her Guide. She uses her story to motivate, encourage, and inspire others to share their stories. She believes there is someone waiting on the other end of your story to get healing from their story. Free yourself from the pain and shame of a tucked away story. Do you want to tell your own powerful narrative, but you aren't sure where to start? Your journey towards healing begins now. Laquita Parks, CEO and founder of PayPro-V Publishing. She's passionate about helping individuals take their story from a thought to a realization. PayPro-V stands for pain, progress, victory. The subject Laquita is all too familiar with. A survivor of childhood medical trauma, she experienced a series of events that have forced her to battle with the painful effects that will last throughout her lifetime. Despite these challenges, Laquita is an overcomer, and she believes you are an overcomer too. As publisher and contributing author, she told her inspirational story in the international and domestic best-selling anthology, She Said Yes to Herself, Unapologetically Empower Her Guide. She uses her story to motivate, encourage, and inspire others to share their stories. She believes there is someone waiting on the other end of your story to get healing from their story. Free yourself from the pain and shame of a tucked away story. Do you want to tell your own powerful narrative, but you aren't sure where to start? Your journey towards healing begins now.